everyone, and welcome to a very special tournament review. Tonight we are reviewing the entire Gauntlet Series for 2022. So 10 tournaments over the past year, with the finals coming up. So we're also having part of the video tonight will be the list review and players reveal for the finals. So we're really pumped about that. And with me tonight to run through it all, I have Tim. Tim, how you going?
Good. How are you doing, Henry?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Now, Tim is firstly a long-time friend, but also he is the highest-ranked player in from the Gauntlet this year that only came to a single tournament. So he's exceptionally skilled, but exceptionally lazy as well. So I thought
Oh
he
yeah.
would be a good person to have on tonight. Um, so let's get into it. So So the gauntlet was 10 tournaments over the past 12 months, with one a month spread out over the entire southeast Queensland area, with the goal to try and get the different communities playing games. So we had some in Toowoomba, some down at Burleigh, some at Logan, and I think we succeeded because we kind of got a core group of guys who were traveling to all the different events, which was really awesome to see. But the other big thing that happened was those that core group of people, they aren't all from the same area. So we got some guys from North Brisbane consistently going down as far as Burleigh, like a place they wouldn't normally go. Same with some of the Burleigh guys were coming to Toowoomba. Some of the Logan guys were going all over. It was really good to see, and that was kind of what I was envisioning when I created this series. So I was really pumped about that. So over the course of the entire series, so we actually had 52 unique players, which I think is awesome, and 140 total attendees. So on average, it works out that people came to three different events, with each event having an average of 14 people at the event. So Tim, you only came to one of the ones down at Burleigh just because you've got young kids, so it's hard to get away.
Yes.
Would you come to more next year, or did you enjoy the one that you went to? Give us a quick rundown.
I definitely did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. It's always good to see everybody and the guys around. I went down to the one at Burleigh. I think it was around 10. I think we had around 20, 18 to 20 people attend that one. It was an awesome day out with the guys. Um, the plan was this year to definitely attend more. There was another one that was at Burleigh that I was planning on attending, but I had commitments with the wife that I had to attend to, so unfortunately wasn't able to. But next year the wife is good and just got a pre-plan in those dates, which is good. You do that start of the year, so then be able to get to a lot more hopefully.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So now we've got big plans for what we're doing with the series next year, but I'll save that for later in the video. Um, but getting into more of a deep dive of the other things that happened during the series, we've got a breakdown of the total Grand Alliances played. So Order was played 48.57%, roughly 50% of the lists there were Order. And then both Destruction and Death were smaller, about 15% each, and then Chaos sitting just above 20%. Do you reckon that this is a kind of an accurate representation of what the Southeast Queensland meta is like at the moment?
Yeah, I definitely think so. The two death and destruction are much smaller grand alliances, and they've only got four factions each, and they haven't seen as much love in terms of updates and whatnot to those battle tomes and stuff. Whereas Order's seen a lot more updating happening, so it makes sense that there are a bit higher representation there, and there's a lot more factions in that one.
Yeah, yeah, and if we look at this next image as well, so this is the faction breakdown for what people brought. You can see that there is a clear leader ahead, with Stormcast being bought by 32 players over the series. Um, so one thing that I do find is interesting is if you actually removed Stormcast from that graph, it very much removes a lot of that massive overpowering of order at the top level. So you can see, like, if you remove Stormcast, then Maggotkin, Nighthaunt, and Ironjaws and Deep King, so one of each, are the top four, which is awesome to see. Do you reckon there's like anything apart, like it might have been releases, it might have just been the players? What do you think kind of influenced people to take the factions that they did?
Well, that Stormcast one in particular, it sort of seems like everybody has a Stormcast army in the back of the cupboard
Mm,
in terms of every release two-player release thing has had a Stormcast in it, so that would sort of explain that. And then Maggotkin, they seem fairly high. They were pretty um, strong in the meta there for a while, so it makes sense with the ones that are at the top there.
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting to see as well. One thing that I noticed as the series kind of progressed, because we consistently were seeing like four or five Stormcast players at each event. One thing that I noticed was that people started teching for them, and so like they might not necessarily be bringing the best list they could write, but it's a list that dealt with Stormcast, which I thought was very interesting towards the end. So you played in round nine. Do you think that having it as part of a series and having these stats available for players, do you reckon that tweaked and changed what people brought or what people were planning?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You knew people that were coming to events, and those people, like you said, that were willing to travel around to different events. And you'll probably see a bit later in the show that certain people had, they were broad across what factions they brought, and some were very honed in on the one faction that they were bringing. So there's probably that teching there I could see. And I know that round nine that I attended was a very broad range of
Mm.
factions at that one. It wasn't anything high representation in particular on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. Well, if we look at this next screen, we can actually see. So this is more of an in-depth breakdown of exactly the overall percentages of all the different factions and grand alliances and how they worked out. So if you're interested in learning more about the meta over the past year in the area, definitely pause the video, stop listening to us, read through some of these stats because I find that it's like some of these things are very interesting. So one thing that I wanted to point out was the percentage of lists that went 3-0 is very small across all the factions. So you can see the highest one there is Destruction with 15. The lowest is Chaos with a bit over 9. So that's only a 6 point swing um, overall, which is speaks really well to the overall balance. Tim, can you see anything here that you wanted to point out when you were reading through this?
Oh, in particular, I guess your faction percentages there, being Beast of Chaos. It's one that sort of sticks out there with a 50% chance, 50% of a 3-0. But I guess that can be put down to our friend Geordie, who's quite a prevalent and proficient Beast of Chaos player in the meta.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's like as much as having all these data points is great, you've got to kind of put them in context as well. So Beasts of Chaos using Geordie and his beasts as an example, he attended 4 events. He bought beasts every time. He was the only person that bought beasts, and he got a 3-0 or a 2-1 result every single time. So is it a case of beasts is an immensely powerful list? I think it's strong. I don't think it's absolutely like it just is an easy win. But Geordie is a very good player with that. So that's an example of kind of the results here don't necessarily correlate perfectly um, with the actual power of the army. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at these.
Yeah, those factions with the smaller representation
Mm.
are definitely in that case.
Yeah, yeah. So and like some of these factions are only played once or twice, and sometimes just the person's having an off day, or they just come up against their counters, and there's nothing they can do, and that's kind of it. So the interesting thing that I was seeing is once again with the Stormcast, they were taken 32 times. We had a full range, but really they kind of the most common result was the 1-2. So whether or not that was due to people teching for it and knowing how to play against them over the course of the series, or whether it was newer people, like you said, they're always in the two-player boxes. So new people, it's an easy army to get into. They were bringing them to events. There's a lot of reasons why these stats can be the way they are. So
Mm.
definitely worth having a look at if you're a serious player.
Uh,
Um,
uh,
but
I, I guess another one that stands out there is Maggotkin of Nurgle. It's got a decent amount of results there with 13, and it shows that your highest percentages are 1-2, but the two ones at that 38%. So it probably sits in that 50-50 win rate there. So
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, like I'm very much a data guy. I love crunching all these numbers and looking at all these stats. So if you like me, definitely have a bit of a deep dive. Go in and have a look at the raw results. You can find them on the website. It's definitely something to look at, especially if you're looking to try and take your game to the next level. So, but if we get kind of instead of just spending the entire night talking about this, we get back to the rest of the show. Um, so another thing that we've been doing, and this is very evident as this is the first Gauntlet series that we run, is we were giving best painted and best sports awards out at every tournament. Unfortunately, because this is the first one that we've run, we weren't able to come up with a good way to kind of do an end result. So we've got the finals for the best generals, but unfortunately, we just kind of forgot to get some good photos, and we still haven't come up with a way to do best sports over multiple events. So unfortunately, these guys are just going to have to live with a shout out at the moment. So the best painteds. Now, one thing to take into account here is each player could only win Best Painted once. So, a couple of these guys actually had multiple different armies nominated, um, but we limited them only one. The idea is we're just trying to grow the community and kind of give everyone that chance to walk away with an award. So, for Best Painteds, we've got Jacob Richards with his Legion of the First Prince, Tim McDivitt with his Cadron Overlords, Matt Gammy with his Sylvaneth, Gabe Hanna with his Header Knights of Slanesh, Dave Newman with his Sons of Behemoth, Clint Mallet with his Soulblight Gravelords, Scott White with his Daughters of Cain, Elena Simpson with her Slaves to Darkness, Jonathan Williams with his Maggotkin of Nurgle, and Jordan DeVissa with his Sylvaneth as well. So congratulations to all you guys, guys and girls. Sorry. Um, but all those armies were exceptionally painted, and if I had more forethought, then I would definitely have done more with that. I think we lost Tim there for a second, but he's back now.
back,
Um,
I'm back.
yeah. Tim, do you saw the one that you went to was won by Jono with his Maggotkin? Do you have any thoughts on kind of how the series handled the best painteds?
I think it was good. Giving everybody the opportunity to be in it to win it type thing without the same person going to every event and winning it every time. I like that. That was really good. And the painting standard at all events was quite high. There was nobody that was trying to come in with a barely painted army. Everybody's was quite high standard, which was nice.
Yeah, yeah, I was very impressed by the hobby over the course of the series. I thought towards the end it might drop off a bit, but if anything, people kind of took it as a bit of a challenge, and we had amazingly painted armies right up until the end. So one of the things that I noticed was apart from Sylvaneth, with Matt Gammy and Jordan Devissa, no other army is repeated, which is a credit to Games Workshop and their sculptors. That all of their models look amazing, and then they can just be taken to that next level by all those painters as well. So for the next series, we're thinking of taking a little photography setup to each tournament and actually getting some proper photos of each winner at the event, and not trying to organize it after the fact. And also, we had the best sports. So we still haven't come up with a good idea for how we want to have the overall best sport of the series. If anyone's got any ideas, send me a message. I am fully coming up blank for this, but the best sports winners over the course of the 10 events were Nathan Mayer, Eddie McCormack, Nicole Corneith, Jordan DeVissa, Steve Baglin, Pat Carter, Gavin Woodrow, Paul Long, Geordie Flett, and Nick Theronda. Now, I will point out now that I apologise to anyone if I butchered your name. I am not the best at that. but feel free to send me through how I'm meant to say it. Um, One of the interesting things that I saw was that no one won it twice, which was very interesting. So obviously there is quite a high standard of sportsmanship in the community. Tim, do you have any thoughts on the best sports?
They're all great people, except Gav, obviously. But they're all great people. The community is awesome. Everybody's great to play against. I've I've only been playing Age of Sigmar now for 12 months, and I've never had a bad game of it. It's just
Yeah,
I pretty much know all of these people, and they're all great people to play against. So they're all very deserving.
yeah, yeah. No, the community in this area is absolutely amazing. So if you're part of the community, you definitely deserve a shout out. Um, Everyone is such a pleasure to play against, and it's a real asset to the community and the hobby itself. So um, the next thing that I wanted to kind of point out was a couple of the notable players. So these are the players that, in addition to winning either a Best Painted or a Best Sports, also managed to sneak onto the podium at an event. And so in this list, we have Jacob Richards, Geordie Flett, Paul Long, Pat Carter, Jordan DeVissa, Scott Wyatt, Jono Williams, and Gavin Woodrow. So those are the players that either won a Best Sports and a Best Painted, or they got a Best Sports or Best Painted and got onto the podium as well. So one of the things that when I was doing up all these stats that I was a bit surprised about was no one managed to take out all three. So I know a couple of people got very close, but no one actually managed it. So might be. Do you think it might be something we'll see next year, Tim, or do you think it's unachievable?
Ooh, I think it's achievable. The trifecta. I think it's definitely achievable.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the challenge. So that's doesn't matter kind of whether or not you win. You've got to kind of take it all out to really have the bragging rights and be the best of the best in every category. Um, so continuing on because we want to kind of keep this moving. We don't want to keep people in suspense and waiting for the list too long. We do just have. I want to do a quick kind of shout out to Scott for helping out with painting our super prize. So this is a prize we're giving away a 2,000 point army to someone who attended an event throughout the entire year. So basically, everyone's names goes into a hat, and we draw out the winner. So they're going to win a 2,000 point, fully professionally award-winning painted army. So I did a lot of the base work. Um, I'm not the greatest. So then I reached out, and Scott gladly donated his time and skills to take this from a kind of a tabletop level to a really award winning level. So Scott has won Best Painted in the Gauntlet Series, and his most recent achievement was getting I believe he came second at the recent Runax Team Champs for his disciples of Zinch with all the squid conversions. It's an absolutely amazing army. But he has done some amazing work bringing my painting up to a professional level. So, and I know, Tim, you've seen this army in person. What are your thoughts on it?
It's amazing. Scott's store manager at my local store and my weekly opponent, and I've been watching him over the last few weeks progress with this army whilst also doing his Runak stuff and doing his stuff for the Gauntlet finals and getting everything ready. And it's coming along. It's good. It looks really really good. Whoever wins it is going to be very very happy.
Yeah, yeah. So the army is a Lord Arcanum on Toralon, a Lord Imperant with Gryphound, Yndrasta, and then 2 units of 5 Liberators, 3 units of 5, or one big unit of Vindictors, and then 3 units of Annihilators. Now, it's a little bit cheaper with the most recent point changes, but it is still a very decent list, in my opinion, and something that you could take to hopefully the Gauntlet next year. We see it come back, and we'll see if it takes out one of the awards, which I'm sure it can do. So, but the moment everyone has been waiting for, we have the 8 people coming to the Gauntlet finals, and they are Jacob Richards, Scott Wyatt, Dave Kerr, Pat Carter, Paul Long, Jono Williams, Matt Dale, and Sam Thompson. So all of these guys deserve a massive congratulations for being able to qualify for the finals. We did have two people who did qualify but are unable to make it, unfortunately. They are Barry Rowan and Geordie Flett. So they both earned their spot in the finals, but unfortunately, life sometimes just gets in the way, and so they're not able to make it. And so we gave their tickets down to the next highest ranked people. But all of those people deserve all the congratulations and for all the effort that they've put in over the course of the year. You can see there we've listed out the amount of tournaments they've come to, and a lot of them tried to come to every single one. I believe Paul and Jono, the only one they missed was when literally highways were flooded and it wasn't physically possible for them to get to that tournament. So we've seen a massive turnout. It's been amazing to see all the people take it so seriously and try and get to all the events. I'm still absolutely chuffed that all these guys have supported this series so much. Tim, do you have any comments about the stats for the top eight?
Oh, we got Mr. Dave Kerr up there. He's got 12 wins, no losses. So it's a pretty hefty stat right there. 100% win rate.
Mm,
So it's quite a hefty one. And like you said, you've got those Paul, Jono, who have both got 9 tournaments attended, and then Jacob and Scott, who are at that 8 tournaments. And I know in there's what three people here that have all taken four different factions, and Paddy especially 5 tournaments, 4 different factions.
yeah, yeah, it is impressive to kind of see the guys that they've either played different lists because they've gotten sick, they've gotten bored of the one way they're playing, or they're just trying out different things, or you can see like some of the people, like you said, like Jacob and Scott and Pat all playing 4 factions, and still having like the lowest win rate amongst them is Scott with a 63%. 63% is still incredibly good across 4 different factions, and I know one of the tournaments that Scott came to, he deliberately bought a list that I challenged that he couldn't do well with, and he didn't place very well in that tournament, but all his games were incredibly tight and incredibly close. So once again, like these are 8 of the top players in the local area, and I'm excited to see what they can do in the finals. So let's keep moving on. And we've got the first list. So the first list that we're unveiling tonight is Jacob. So he's playing Disciples of Zinch in the Host Arcanum. So he's got a Cursling, Kairos, Magister on disc, and a Fluxmaster on disc. Then he's got a big unit of Screamers, a couple of units of Acolytes, some Skyfires, and a couple of units of Beasts. 3 endless spells, as you'd expect with Zinch, all coming in with a command entourage, battle regiment, and an expert conquerors. So, Tim, what are your thoughts? What do you think Jacob's trying to achieve with this list?
Well, he's going well. He's got a bit of a. He's going with Zinch, which is a newer battle tome, so there may be some hope there that the people aren't too familiar with what the new stuff is. So that could be one of the tactics there. He's got as with Zinch, a lot of spell casting there. He's got his mortal heroes for his summoning, and one thing that might be uh, missing that you would normally see in a list is those pinks, but they're easily summoned on. So
Yeah, yeah. I know, like, one thing that I noticed is he's got both of the units of acolytes in expert conquerors. So they're going to be very hard to fully move off objectives. And then he's also got the untamed beasts as screens, I'm assuming. But he's got a lot of bodies for a Zinch list as well.
yeah,
So that's interesting as well. Whether or not he is going to be able to just overwhelm people with bodies, so then he can get his summoning all set up, or like that big unit of screamers, it can get some work done as well. So
yeah.
I'm very interested to see how Jacob plays it, and how he goes on the tabletop. So
So second list, Scott. Scott Wyatt. We got he's running his Daughters of Cain with Zankai. He's got a Hag Queen, Marathi, Cain, and the Shadow Queen. 2 lots 10 Witch Elves, 15 Blood Sisters, which are the fighty snakes, 10 Bloodstalkers, the shooty snakes, and then 2 units of Heart Renders in there. What are your thoughts on that one, Henry?
This is a list that I know Scott has been playing a lot of, and he's doing very well with it. Marathi is just as difficult to deal with as she always has been, and having her backed up by the two big units of snakes, like it is a force to be reckoned with. So the fact that he's also found the points for the 2 units of Heartrenders as well, just to be able to just drop down on objectives, I think that having 2 units gives him access to, I think, 4 battle tactics that are basically guaranteed with those units. So that's 190 points that is definitely well spent. So the other thing that jumps out to me is the fact that it's a 3 drop. So he's got the battle regiment in there, and then the bounty hunters. So the snakes are in the bounty hunters, and then everything else is in the battle regiment. He's going to play aggressive with this list. He's going to try and dictate the tempo of the game, and I think it'll be very hard to stop his plans and to try and get back to your own. So
Yeah, with the Shadow Queen only being able to take 3 wounds a turn, it's she's just so hard to deal with. And then that Hag Queen bringing a 4-up rally, those
mm,
snakes is it's gonna be rough.
yeah, yeah, and with the fight on death, then
Yeah,
yeah, he's like this is probably one of the strongest lists in the game at the moment, in my opinion. And Scott is a very good player, and he's very practiced with this list. So I definitely think he is a contender to take it out. So coming on to the next list, we've got Dave Kerr's list. So he's playing Ideneth Deep King with the Enclave Morphan. He's got an Achillean King, which is fully kitted out with absolutely everything. Then he's also got a Soul Scryer and a Soul Render as a bit of support there. It's got a big unit of Morsar Guard, a big unit of Reavers, and then 2 smaller units of Thralls. And he also brought in the Kronspine Incarnate of Gur. So he's got his Thralls in the Expert Conquerors, and then everything else is sitting in a nice battle regiment again. So what do you think is his play with this list, Tim?
oh, he's got his Slap King there with, like you said, fully kitted out. He's gonna come in and he's just gonna wreck face. He's gonna do a heck of a lot of damage with a heck of a lot of attacks.
Mm,
So that's big. And then you got sort of 2 hammers there with the Achillean King and then the Kronspine. The Kronspine's gonna do, yeah, he's going to tie things up. He's going to do the damage. And if another list has a monster, he's just going to level up, or with endless spells, he's going to level up and just wreak havoc around the place. You got your eels there as your anvil unit to sit on objectives, and then your reavers, similarly to the Scott's list previously. He's got a shooting unit there just to pick things off as he needs, and they're going to pump out a lot of shots.
yeah, yeah. I think like this is a very well rounded list. Like he's got play in most of the phases. He's got some stuff that's really fast. He's got some stuff that's good shooting. He's got some very fighty stuff. He's got some good anvils. Like
Yeah,
and Dave is also another very good player, and I know he's been having a lot of success with the Ideneth recently. So this is another list to really watch out for.
yeah. Like we said earlier, Dave's the man that has 100% win rate at the Gauntlet events. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Next up, Paddy. So he's running his Iron Jaws in the Bloodtooths. He's got double Maw Crusher.
Looks like Tim's just having some technical difficulties there.
Oh, we back?
Yep, you're back now.
We're back. So we got Paddy. He's got his Bloodtooths. He's running 2 Maw Crushers, 3 War Chanters with each of the beats. And then we got all of the pigs, 4 units, sorry, of 3 pigs. It looks like 3 of them are in Bounty Hunters.
Yep. Yeah, so this list is just pure aggression. Pure aggression. So those Maw Crushers are going to be coming in hard and fast. They're going to be backed up by the Gore Grunters. It's all in Bloodtooths. So they're going to hit the front line and just keep moving forward. He's got the Basham lads on the Arcane Tone Maw Crusher for the bonuses to wound. He's got Destroyer on his general as the artifact to really push that damage through. So, like we were saying before, with Scott just trying to control the tempo of the game, he's brought a question, and the question is, can you deal with my entire army in your face turn one? Um,
He
yeah,
is. He's nine drops, so I don't know what the drop percentages look like, but he might be going picking that second turn, or not getting to pick the first turn. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. But if you like, can people afford to give this list the first turn, or do
That's it.
they need to take it to try and set up to live through it and risk the double? So we will see. We will see. So next up we have Paul's list. So Paul is playing Stormcast Eternals in the Scions of the Astral Templars. So he's got a Lord Imperator as his general. He's got a Lord Aquila there as well, and a Knight Relictor. And then he's got 10 Vanquishers, 2 units of Vanguard Hunters, and then 2 units of Annihilators with Grand Hammers, 2 units of Vanguard Raptors with Long Strike Crossbows, and a little unit of Aether Wings as well. So, what are your thoughts on this list?
Oh, he's got his big hitter annihilators that are coming in there. What, 3 damage each, I believe.
Yeah,
Four
three.
when they're in bounty hunters.
Yeah,
That's going to be nasty, and they can all drop within 7 inches, and they do mortal wounds as they come in. They're going to be the big hammers of the list.
mm,
And you've got a lot of MSU sort of shooting in there. You got
yeah. The 2 units of
uh,
the Raptors. The interesting thing as well with the hunters is they have the inbuilt teleport with their compass where they can come on again from the board edge. So
yeah,
whether Paul's going to be really pushing the MSU aspect of the list and trying to really just outposition opponents will be really interesting to see. So next up we have Jono.
Jono's got his Skaven. So we got uh, a Vermin Lord Deceiver, Thanquol, a Warlock Bombardier, 2 lots 20 Clan Rats, 6 Storm Fiends, 5 Gutter Runners. We got Lashing Jaws and Soul Seeker,
Yeah, yeah.
all in a battle regiment for a 2 drop.
Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting list as well. Like Thankful can really put out the hurt, especially with Lauchon. So that's kind of the obvious tactic with that. But then he's also got the Gutter Runners and the Storm Fiends and the Deceiver as well. Like the Storm Fiends can put out so much work; they can really get stuff done. And then the Deceiver as well is really tricksy. He's got incredible agility and the Shadow Magnet Trinket, so that's keeping it a little bit more survivable and increasing his output there, especially because he's got the Flaming Weapon as well. So whether or I'm interested to see how Jono plays this. So whether he is kind of really plays aggressively with the 2 drop, really pushes Thankful and the Deceiver up, and then backs them up with the Storm Fiends, or if he kind of plays around more and kind of plays from range. So it will be very interesting to see what he does here.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have Matt's list. So Matt is playing Stormcast Eternals in Scion's Hammers of Sigma. He's got a Lord Relictor, he's got Karazai, and a Lord Castellan, and then 2 units of 5 Vindictors, and then 2 units of Fulminators with one being reinforced, and then a unit of Praetors as well, and everything is wrapped up in a battle regiment for the 1 drop.
Oh, so he's a man that wants to choose that first turn and what's going on. And
Mm,
he's got his big melee dragon in there who's got just one attack for every model that's within 3 inches, so it can be a huge amount of attacks with a heap of damage into it. So
mm,
that's nasty. And then you got your 2 units of Vindicators for grabbing up your objectives, and then your Dracothian Guard Fulminators, which are mortal wound shooting and loads of damage on the charge. So
yeah, yeah. One thing to note is he's got bless weapons as well on the Lord Relictor.
he does.
So something there is going to have exploding hits as well, and if you're facing down on that, you don't want anything there to have exploding hits. So Castellan in there to. I'm assuming he'll be using that on Karazai to make him even more tanky, and then he's got the three Praetors backing him up as well with that. So that is going to be a very tanky dragon, um, and it's going to be able to put out a lot of hurt at the same time.
Yeah. Next up is Sam. Sam running his Bone Splitters in Drakfoot. He's got a Wergog Prophet, two Wergog Prophets, should I say, one being his general, a Wardock, three lots of 10 Savage Orc Boys, two lots of 5 Savage Boy Maniacs, sorry. And what's that? 2, 4, 6 Savage Big Stabbers, and a Cron Spine to wrap it all up.
Yeah, yeah. So like Sam is 12 drops, so he won't be choosing whether or not he's going first, but that is a lot of Bone Splitters coming down at you. So, and adding in Cronspire there as well, it looks like his place is to try and just lock you in place, and then just start grinding, and that list will grind exceptionally well. Both those profits will get work done. Um, the more boys there are, you can see, are all in expert conquerors, so they're going to be very difficult to shift off objectives. The maniacs and the big stabbers are fast, they hit hard, and with the Cronspine next to them, when you can't retreat, they're going to be able to grind and play into exactly what they want. So another a really interesting list as well. So I'm really pumped to see how everything plays out. And so if we look at kind of the lists overall, we've got here the drops wounds. Like we can see that Matt and Jono have definitely gone for the low drops as opposed to Pat and Sam. So do you think with the list that they've taken, are they really gunning for that first turn, or are they kind of they just want the control at the start?
I think it's with the current GHB and Proving Grounds, it's very battle plan dependent, but having that option to be able to go second and be able to dictate the Proving Grounds if your opponent doesn't have any uh, Galatian veterans, especially like Pat, for instance, who doesn't have any. He's got all Gore Grunters in his list. Being able to deny him being able to score certain points could be critical in a game.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. So it's interesting to see kind of the spread there. You've very much got, like, you look at Paul, Dave, Scott, Jono, and Matt, all of them are 4 drops or less. And then Jacob, Pat, and Sam are all over 7. Um, there's kind of a clear kind of split between them whether or not people are trying to play into to goat get that choice at the start, or if it's just a case of they're playing what they need to play to make the list work, and they've given up that for additional functionality in the list. So looking at the wounds now, like you can see Sam's list has 133 wounds. Like that is a lot of beef in the list. Comparing it to Dave's only 81, like that's 52 wounds difference. That's almost an entire list. So, what are your thoughts in regards to the kind of the spread of the wounds on in the lists?
Um, it's very interesting, Dave being down at that 81 wounds. Normally you see it around that 100 mark, which is pretty representative from sort of Jono through to Matt there, and that 97 to 113. That seems to be the normal range.
Mm-hmm.
Sam pushing the limits there at the higher end, but he's also got ward saves on top of that. So yeah, that's going to be a nasty one to shift.
Yeah, yeah, and it is kind of interesting looking at the lists. Like both Matt and Paul are running Stormcast. They've both got that very good armor saves. They've got tanky lists, so they're kind of getting away from the more bodies and the more wounds compared to Sam and Pat and Jono just being able to put people on objectives. Dave's list just kind of sits out completely by itself. So I'm very interested to see how it plays. Whether it's a case of because he's got so many points wrapped up in his Achillean King and his Cronspine, that's where um, the difference comes from. I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out on the table. And then looking at the points as well, so you've got Matt there with 1945, and then and then five players on 1990. So I I wonder is did Matt deliberately make his list smaller to get the triumph, or
Yeah,
did he just kind of couldn't find anything to fit and to fill those last couple of points?
yeah, yeah. Everybody else seems to be at that normalish range, which seems to sit between that 1965 normally up to 2000, but
Mm,
1945 is low. It's very interesting. Be interested to hear Matt's thoughts on
yeah, yeah.
that.
And now the part that I know a lot of people are waiting for, we have the first round matchups. So without further ado, here they are. So in the first round, we have Jacob playing Sam, Scott playing Matt, Dave playing Jono, and Pat playing Paul. So, does anything jump out at you straight away, Tim? Anything that you immediately want to discuss and kind of deep dive into?
Oh, it's an interesting set of matchups. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. Anything that sticks out particularly in terms of matchups, I'd like to see. I'd love to see that Scott versus Matt and that Dave versus Jono matches. Those are the very intriguing ones. Because what was Jono at? What was his wounds at? Sorry, Jono was at 113 wounds and Dave's at 81. So you got that big disparity there
Mm.
in wounds, and it's yeah, that one's an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah. So we will be filming two tables every round. So we're going to try and get every player filmed at some point. But naturally, we will be prioritizing the players who are still undefeated later on during the day. So but yeah, so we might try and get Scott and versus Matt and Dave versus Jono in for the first round. I think that I agree with you with that Scott and Matt game. I think that's going to be very interesting to play. Like Matt's got a lot of hitting power, but it's mostly tied up in a few units. So
Yeah,
whether Scott can use Marathi to bully those units where he wants to go.
yeah,
Um, the other game that I think is going to be very interesting is going to be Pat versus Paul, because Pat's got a very aggressive list, but a lot of Paul's big hitters are probably not going to be on the table to start with. So does he play very defensively in the back corner, give Pat a kind of a very ineffectual first turn, and then come down and surround him, get in amongst it, and kind of
yeah.
take control that way? So
And is he able to shoot off those units of pigs or a more crusher and sort of wean Pat down? That'd be interesting.
yeah, before he can really bring his power to bear. So
Yeah,
the other thing, I like it's a bit of a cop out, but I also kind of think that Jacob versus Sam game is going to be very interesting because Sam's got a lot of stuff that he's throwing in front of Jacob early, but Jacob has so much spell casting that he is going to really be able to put a lot of hurt and get a lot of stuff out early. So whether the Cronspine in Sam's list is going to really affect how Jacob plays,
yeah.
we'll have to wait and see whether or not that really changes how he gets out his spells.
That is a very interesting one because Jacob is running three endless spells, which
Mm,
is interesting. Whether Jacob even bothers putting them out,
yeah,
because that Cronspine's just gonna gobble them up and start leveling them up. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, but that is the first round. So I think this is going to be very tight. Overall, Tim, if you had to kind of pick someone that you think is going to take it out, who would you like to see go home with the gauntlet?
oh, I can't go past my man Scott. My man Scott, my regular opponent, the store manager at my local store, the guy I play with all the time. I'm backing him and I want him to win. We'll see how he goes though. He's got a tough round one, and then very depends on how it pans out in the next two rounds.
Mm.
Could be a tough road to victory, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's going to be an absolutely exceptional tournament when it comes to for player skill. Like all eight of these guys are absolutely amazing players. They're all well experienced. They all know their lists. I know they'll be practicing and researching and coming up with exactly how they're going to beat their opponents. So I can't wait. I honestly couldn't pick a winner. I think like you've got some players like Pat and Dave who just they have the win rate behind them, like with 80 and 100% at the previous Gauntlet events. Um, but then you've also got players like Jacob, Jono, and Paul, and like I know those guys absolutely smash out games. So they might not have the longer term experience, but they are getting games in. They know how this edition, how these armies are going to play. So I am pumped. I'm so excited. I can't wait for the day. Um, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. Um, but that is pretty much us done. So the only thing that I wanted to announce here right at the end, and this is a bit of a surprise for everyone, is our plan for next year. So what we're planning to do at the moment, we're just laying the final bits of groundwork to pull this off. Is we're actually planning on running a 2-day event in the first half of next year, around the start of April, and then the Gauntlet will change to a 6-month series in the second half of the year. So we're trying to get it lined up with the GHBs, so there'll be one consistent GHB for the entire series. And having only a 6-month series means it's a little bit easier for people to kind of prioritize those events over their family. Unfortunately, people get caught in that trap where they think things outside of Warhammer are more important, but we all know that's wrong. So Tim can attest to that. Um, but we'll leave you guys there. Hopefully everyone has enjoyed this video. It's a bit longer than normal, but hopefully you've kept up with us. Um, if you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe to the video. It really helps us out. Otherwise, find us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or check out our webpage, and hopefully buy some stuff, because the more stuff that we sell means the more stuff like this that we can do. So, any final shout outs, Tim?
Nice. Well, shout out to the Simple Math boys, but that's about it.
Excellent. Well, we'll see you guys next time, and I'll talk to everyone hopefully live from the Gauntlet event. Bye.
So yeah.